Tonight, and will you please now welcome Geoffrey Hill and Jeremy Treglone.
One introduction after another. This is a very great pleasure and a privilege for me. This event is a Writers at Warwick event, but it's also an event in the Centre for Research in Philosophy and Literature, a joint enterprise. It's 30 years, it's hard to believe this, but it's 30 years since Harold Bloom wrote that Geoffrey Hill is the strongest British poet now alive and should survive all but a handful or fewer of American poets now active. That position hasn't changed, but it speaks, of course, for a particular sector of the reading and writing world. And I think George Steiner has been right to stress Geoffrey Hill's Europeanness. George Steiner has said, among our finest poets, Geoffrey Hill is at present the most European. For us here in Coventry, of course, there is a different kind of regional association. Geoffrey Hill is a local poet. He was born in Bromsgrove. His poetry contains many references to the West Midlands, especially, of course, in Mercian hymns. The Triumph of Love, 1998, begins and ends with the sky over Romsley, north of Bromsgrove. And the sequence also includes a vivid evocation of the, if that's the right word, of the bombing of Coventry, and also a poem about a return to Fairfield, where Geoffrey Hill grew up. As I narrow the focus from an international one to a local one, perhaps I can just say something personal, which is that I had the great privilege of publishing The Mystery of the Charity of Charles Péguy first in the Times Literary Supplement in 1983. It's one of the things I look back on from my editorship with the most pride and pleasure. That and one or two essays that Hill was good enough to write for the paper, in which he tells me he's now thinking of collecting, perhaps with the lecture that he'll be giving tomorrow afternoon, which David referred to. He has, in the past 5 years, he says, doubled his collected poems, if you see what I mean. Since the collected poems, this book was published, it has doubled in size, and he'll be reading this evening from unpublished work as well as published. So we have that extra excitement of being in on something that we haven't had a chance to read on the page. It's a brave thing for any writer to do, to read work that doesn't have that background of familiarity with an audience. And I know you'll understand that after the reading, Professor Hill won't be taking questions, though he will be happy to sign copies of his work if you want to come and bring them. And perhaps more to the point, tomorrow after his lecture, he will be engaging in discussion with people there. So if you have an opportunity to come then, you can put questions to him. Will you join me again in welcoming Geoffrey Hill? Thank you. Thank you.
I'll start as a tribute to the occasion by reading that short extract from The Triumph of Love to which Jeremy Treglone referred. Although I was told as we were driving in last night that actually it isn't Coventry, it's Leamington Spa. but I will read the section on the bombing of Coventry, which I remember as an 8-year-old child standing in the yard of my uncle's farm in Worcestershire and seeing this great glow in the eastern sky and being told that it was Coventry burning. Romsley of all places, spraddled ridge village sacred to the boy martyr Kenelm, his mouth full of blood and toffee. A stocky water tower built like the stump of a super dreadnought's foremast. It could have set Coventry ablaze with pretend broadsides. Some years before that armoured city suddenly went down, guns firing beneath the horizon. Huge silent whoops of flame shadow, bronzing the nocturnal cloud base of her now legendary dust. I'm sorry, that reference to Leamington Spa was meant to be a little joke, and it's probably in the most appalling bad taste. I do apologise. To stay with the Triumph of Love for a few more sections. This is section 101. Though already too late, we must set out early, taking the cinder path by the old scythe works. There will be no quarrel between us all this time, a light rain unceasing, the moist woods full of wild garlic. The 150 sections of the Triumph of Love, only 130 of which I'll be reading this evening, contain some sections which are addresses to angels. There's nothing, of course, particularly original in that in the 20th century. Clay, of course, with his Angelus Novus, and Rilke with his angels. So I'm, as usual, following convention. This is 114. From the angels of irrational decision and of reversed order to the angel of improvisation. From the angel of improvisation to the angels of tannic acid, salicil, and plain water. From the angel of advantage. Where is the angel of recorded delivery? From the angels of advantage lost, of sacrifice, of surrender, to the angels of merciful intervention and final custody. I was promised a glass of water. Oh, there it is. That's all right. Yeah. Uh, 141. From the terrible angel of procreation to the angel in hiding of senility, to the autonomous angel, from the several angels of solitude. CC, angel of self-alienation, angel of solitary confinement. From the angel of the morning gold-fix to the angels of mandragora and rip-off, to the demotic angels, from the angels of repulsion attraction, the loud-winged angels of equal sacrifice, the soul angel standing in for hope and despair. And the following is also, following section 142 is also an angel section. Can you all hear me? Or can you hear me at the back? Is it okay? All right. To the angel of the approved estimates, to the angel of promise across the entire spectrum, to the surplus angels of acquisition, I cannot even hear the new instructions, let alone obey them. Where, you will say, does exclamation end and confession begin? To know all is to forgive all, a maxim more wicked even than it is stupid. Forgive me, would you, ever? But that, by my reckoning, is not the sum. I've introduced it as true, laus et vituperatio, as a formality. Still, this formal thing is less clear in situ. That possibly is why I appeal to it. The angels of sacral equivocation, they now tell me, are redundant. We have lost the bloody question. Vide State Trials Elizabethan, ed. Though you can count on there being some bloody question or other, one does more than barely survive. Less hangs on the outcome or by or around it. Why do I think urgently of beach sewage? At one source, Moltke, the two Bonhoeffers, von Haften, suffered the bloody question and did nobly thereby. Late praise costs nothing. To the angels of inconclusive right on both sides, to the angel of the last minutes, to the angel of our estimated times of arrival and departure. Those names, Moltke, the two Bonhoeffers, von Haften, they were all members of the Widerstand, the German Christian resistance to Hitler, and they all died. The antepenultimate, penultimate, and ultimate sections of The Triumph of Love. Do you see, I had to just look at the cover to check that it was The Triumph of Love. I've written so much in the last 5 years that I sometimes get a little confused. But it is, yes, it's The Triumph of Love. Obnoxious means far back within itself, easily wounded. But vulnerable, proud anger is, I find, a related self of covetousness. I came late to seeing that. Actually, I had to be shown it. What I saw was rough and still pains me. Perhaps it should pain me more. Pride is our crux. Be angry but not proud, where that means vainglorious. Take Leopardi's words, or to be accurate, B.V.'s English cast of them, when he found Tasso's poor scratch of a memorial barely showing among the cold slabs of defunct pomp. It seemed a sad and angry consolation. So, Croker, McSicker, O'Shem, I ask you, what are poems for? They are to console us with their own gift, which is like perfect pitch. Let us commit that to our dust. What ought a poem to be? Answer, a sad and angry consolation. What is the poem? What figures say a sad and angry consolation? That's beautiful. Once more, a sad and angry consolation. Obstinate old man, senex sapiens it is not. Is he still writing? What is he writing now? He has just written, I find it hard to forgive myself. We are immortal. Where was I? Sun blazed over Romsley, the livid rainscarp. If I stand equidistant between the microphones, I can do this with you hearing amplified lugging noises, I trust. Now, I'm going to read something from Speech, which came out in the States last November and I'm told will be appearing in a Penguin paperback this November. The dust jacket which I chose is a Daumier. A Daumier, and its title translated into English is, and they say the Parisians are hard to please. And you probably can't see it, but it's a mass of people applauding rapturously. What they're applauding rapturously, we don't know. Speech consists of 120 12-line sections, and I'll be reading just a handful of those. I'll be reading mostly the Princess Di sections. Now, I encountered the same problem writing the Princess Di sections as my wife encountered when she was asked to write the libretto for the John Adams opera Nixon in China. People said, but of course it will be a satire. You can't possibly write anything on Nixon. It isn't a satire. And both she and the composer said, no, we in fact are writing an heroic opera. And it is an heroic opera. Well, if people say to me, oh, you're going to make fun of the Princess Di hype. No, I'm not. I admired her very much. I never met her. I wasn't on her luncheon list, but I admired her very much. And these are laments for her. Age of mass consent, go global with her. Challenge satellite failure, the primal violent day star, moody as Herod. Forget nothing, reprieve no one. Exempt only her bloodline's jus natalium. Pledge to immoderacy the outraged, hardly forgiven mourning of the people. Inexorable, though in compliance, media conjured. Inscrutable, I call her spirit now on this island. Memory subsiding into darkness, nowhere coming to rest. Huntress? No, not that huntress, but some other creature of fable. And then for her, like being hunted, or inescapably beholden. This should sound tired but not emotional to excess. Half forgotten in one lifetime, the funeral sentence is instantly resurrected. How can they do it? Whatever of our loves here lies apart, whatever it is you look for in sleep, simple biodegradation, a slather of half-rotted black willow leaves at the lake's edge. Open to every season, the known, bountiful, or as bare for our good. The frosted mantle over the shot tower, spectacular, vivifies cold. once and for all resumes its corolla, crowns the instant. I mean the sun's befogged radiance, our violent infirmities, our dead. It is not Ceres' living child I see, broken asprawl inside the wind tunnel, from limo to limbo in a soundbite, fuck up as obligation. England awake, you fell for Aladdin's uncle, one of those. I trust that she is now done with the body search, close interrogation, the fingerprinting, the restless limbo of the K, the depilatory and ritual bath, the ultimate in cosmetics. That for the last time she has wakened to cameras, lust, vindictive protocol, the snarl-ups in the lobby of false friends, the go-betweens and other betrayers to public knowledge. I cannot think how else to commend her. A botched business out of our hands, reduced to the sublime. Pardon is incumbent, rap master, or it is not. On balance, I think not. So get in line, snuff man with Prince of Feathers, pratfall his oppo, mourning Persephone, lost in September tribute, England's daughter. Hack violence to yourself. Brief miracle confessions overridden. None of these gifts of self-knowledge. He is beyond it and you are nowhere. Spielers of abuse. Slow burns, slow double take, the Northampton Madonna and Child. She there? Can it be the grief matronal? I shall return to that. The Northampton Madonna and Child are the Henry Moore sculpture, which is which was commissioned for a church in Northampton. And Northampton is, of course, the home county of the Spencers. Here's another. Hopefully, rap master, I can take stock how best to out-rap you. Like Herod raging in the street pageants, work the crowd. Bit short of puff these days. Swig any one elixir to revive the membrum. Squeeze both tubes for instant bonding. It's his call. In the Algarve, places like that, the Brits are heroes, living as they have to. Cheers. Where are we? Lured? Some sodding mystery tour. What do you mean a break? Pisses me off. Great singer Elton John, though. Christ almighty, even the buses are kneeling. That last line might, I don't know whether they've actually got over, have they got over this side of the Atlantic? You get on a bus in the States and it says on the doorway, this is a kneeling bus. It lowers itself so that wheelchairs and things can get on. It says this is a kneeling bus. I don't think kneeling buses, I haven't seen a kneeling bus over here. Nothing is more tedious, I know, than having to have a joke explained. But this is the final. Princess Di elegy in the book. When all else fails, Corinthians will be read by a man in too tight shoes. No matter. You shall not degrade or debauch the word love beyond redemption, as she redeems it. 6 times this trip I have brought round my wreath to the vulgar gates. Let Thames take over, not grandiosely, our plebeian grief. Evangelical high prelates caught spitting out plumstones, edit tape. Guardsmen make heroic bearers, even their wry necks crick in alignment. Comedienne to act sorry for hostile nation. Curtains, credits. A couple more little things from this same book. The titles that occur in this section, section 17, begins and ends with reminiscences of wartime radio. Workers' playtime was a noon slot, and every morning from about 10:15 to 10:45 one was handed over to the tender mercies of Sandy MacPherson on the BBC theatre organ. And this is a reminiscence. That's not workers' playtime. Trust Dad to find the wrong wavelength. Trust Auntie Beebe to screech like a tart. Trust the old man to pawn his dentures. Trust Grandma to have to go. Trust Ted next door to swear that his stuffed parrot still talks. Trust Irish Jim to call it a grand wake. Trust rich Uncle Tony to drink from the saucer because we are watching and because he's rich. Trust Mad Bess to queen it in purple. Trust your mother to notice who's missing. Trust Sandy MacPherson to blow us to kingdom come. Now, putting better, sound better. Since Speech was published, I finished a new book, very different book in spirit, a much more forgiving book than Speech, which even my staunchest admirers were aghast at. And the best that my dearest friends could find to say of it is nasty but powerful. The Orchards of Zion is so mellow you wouldn't believe. It's 72 sections of 24 lines each. Strange symmetry in the later work of Hill. Our field is taken to be your places of refuge and defense. Author? Author is all one word, like faculties. Can you receive me? Unwise to make wise choices too early. Incorrigible in any case, the human spirit or its spin-offs, cogent, unreadable, and at some personal cost a public nuisance, not ineradicable but not soon put down or uprooted, best early flowering or in the sear. Music arguably not implicated in the loss of Eden, held to its resolution. No question and affirmation. Tell him he is alive, someone, and responsible. He may respond to that as to other electrodes, as Lear to the sour, sweet music of viols, as some to oils of unction, or to gospel. Tune him to gospel. Over my head I hear music, music in the air. That gospel? Sure, that's gospel. That's your gospel music in my head. Oh, my soul sister, you little sister, my soul, this my gospel, this sure music in my head. This one it's other strange visionary moments that seem to come in the midst of the most ordinary scenes and occasions, such as sunshine after a heavy rain shower. Those of you who are gardeners will know that rugosa is a type of rose, a large, rough kind of rose. Might gain eras of promise, collage of dashed peace. Many-headed the field rose, dog rose, tossing in bright squalls, all things self-verifying. A ferrous atmospheric tang between lightning bouts has similar potencies. Its presentiments in the instant abundance, superflux, familiar chill inspiration, self-charged shock beyond shock. Show how many succeed, rising again undiscovered, turning at a breath. Exhalation, threshold and lintel, the unknown to be entered, yet to be desired, on a timekeeper's schedule, if need be. Exhalation, not inspiration. The orchards of Zion exhaling green into gold, gold to candescent red. Like ancient rhetoric, both florid and threadbare, showing the stemma. Light endowed among the natural shades and shadows, heavy-browed barred rugosa, rain-hackled, a streaming instant unreconciled, magnificently thrown off, the coda, the invoked finality, the setting out. Some of the poems in this section are about a particular locality. My wife and I and our daughter have a tiny pied-à-terre in North Lancashire in the Hodder Valley, which is a tributary of the Ribble. And 5 miles down the valley, the little River Hodder flows past Stonyhurst, and it features in Hopkins's journals. I think that's all that one needs to say. 2 nights and 3 days of rain, with the Hodder well up over its older roots. Tumblings of shaly late stormlight. The despised ragwort, luminous, standing out stereoscopically across 20 yards on the further bank. The congregants of air and water of swift reflection vanish between the brightness and shadow. Mortal beauty is alienation, or not, as I see it. The rest passage work, settled beforehand, variable, to be lived through as far as one can with uncertain tenure. Downstream from this Quaker outcrop, Stonyhurst's ample terraces confer with the violent, comely nature of Loyola and English weather. Stone, Palouse, untouched by carbon droppings now from the spent mills. Indescribable, a word accustomed through its halting promptness, comes to be inscribed. The old artifice so immediate, the delight comprehends our measure, knowledge granted at the final withholding, the image that is to die, the creature, the rock of transience. Next section is, it's not about, but it is in its elusive way, it is Hampstead Heath and Highgate, and the fact that Coleridge lived his last rather sad years there. Too many times I wake on the wrong side of the sudden doors, as cloud smoke sets the dawn moon into rough eclipse. Though why in the world this light is not revealed, even so the paths plum-coloured, slippery with bruised leaves, shrouded the clear ponds below Kenwood. Such recollection no more absent from the sorrow tread than I from your phantom showings, Golden Grove. I dreamed I had wakened before this and not recognized the place, its forever arbitrary boundaries recited, recircuited. In no time at all, there's neither duration nor eternity. Look! Crowning the little rise, that bush, copper gold, trembles like a bee swarm. Coleridge's living powers and other sacrednesses, whose asylum this was, did not ordain the sun, but still it serves, bringing on strongly now each flame recognizance. Hermeneutics of autumn, time's continuities, tearing us apart. Make this do for a lifetime, I tell myself. Rot we shall have forbearing either way. This is a section partly in, not entirely, but partly in memory of the German poet and novelist Ingeborg Bachmann. Kindheitslandschaft. I still think they thought we invented it. That whole time, the landscape of childhood, of more than memory, dead Ingeborg, and even so, there only. Did we shield then, believe it, hope to die? Those all marvelling unrehearsed hours where gold crests and the great ferns were, Osmunda Regalis bowing us in and down, both royal and nesh. I am conversant with the book of recollection, self-desolating child, half-changeling. Ancient vows are unexempted, in some ways signify the natal language not forgotten. Intermittent cloud shadow across roofs, our loves discerned like stars, depth-hung in water. Impassively the sempiternal casts deep for endurance. And here and there too, I wish greatly to believe that Bromsgrove was and is Golden Grove, that the orchards of Zion stand as I once glimpsed them. But there we are, the heartland remains heartless. That's the strange beauty of it. And I wasn't neglecting to mark student essays when I did this. Another joke in bad taste, I'm saying. I mean, I was plugging away. Listen, Meister Eckhart is here, ready and eager to tell us his great news, that we caught aright the revelatory scream from the carousel, that there's a divine presence in destitution, that yes, we loved bright Harry Heine and Frank O'Hara as more than passing attractions when I pass was the catchphrase and they unheard of, that the heavy residues from easy loving render us breathless. Both you and I, who pray with the devout, yet practice every trick in the book, our nuptials are of the Spirit entirely. The topos of the whole is gratitude, Duino's cliffhanger we witnessed, and its consummation. Wait, I've not finished. A radical otherness, as it's called, answers to its own voices. That there should be language, rituals, weddings and wedding nights, and tapes which spin fast forwards, stop, reverse. That there is even now hawthorn, this bush pregnant with the wild scent and taint of sex. That there are men and women, destinies interlocked, and dying and resurrection. The shape of all these things is roughly like a short Miltonic canzone. It's a sort of block of lines of varying lengths. It looks on the page a bit like the solemn music. I won't push the comparison beyond that point. We're nearly through. We're nearly through. Only another 25 sections to go. I desire so not to deny desire's intransigence. To you I stand answerable. Correction must once have stood. What's this thing like a clown's eyebrow brush? Blah, blah, blah. I desire so not to deny desire's intransigence. To you I stand answerable. Correction must once have stood. What's this thing like a clown's eyebrow brush? Oh, my lady, it is the fool's confession. Weeping grease paint, all paint and rhetoric. Empower the muse, I'm tired. Shakespeare, who scarcely brooded on perfection, perfect so many times. Memory, memory. The eye elaborates its tears, but misremembered, misremembering no less, key-clustered mistletoe, the orchard chatelaine. I may well carry my 3 engraved thoughts out beyond Shrawley, whose broad verges once throve like spared garden. I confess that, so as not to stint your voice of justice. Love grows in some way closer to withdrawn theology. The deist's orb drops below Ankerdine. Shrawley and Ankerdine are Worcestershire place names, just across on the western bank of the Severn. Shrawley is where my paternal family came from. In the next section, I quote a phrase from the French poet, much too little known, I think, over here, André Fresneau. He has a poem in which he refers to Messalina, Messaline, as la vulve insomnieuse. Reading Dante in a mood of angry dislike for my fellow sufferers and for myself that I dislike them. Dante is exact in these conferrals. The words of justice move on his abacus or make a sudden psst, psst, like farrier's hot iron on horn. The small blue flame of the glass votive lamp that jibs in the funneled air at the right hand of Mary Mediatrix is his also. From this distance, the many barbed divisions between purgatory and hell appear blurred. You could step across or shake hands. Logic is fierce, though at the last less feral than mock logic that destroys many. Sensuous is not sensual, but such knowledge increases with sensuality. Psst, psst, hissing and crying out the final throes. Messaline, freno, la vulve insomnieuse, ever working valve part, unsightly, blood gravid. Look, virgin of Czestochowa, shelterer from the black rain. Look, Ser Brunetto, whom Dante loved. Look, Farinata. The sun moves a notch forward on the great wheel. This is another Lancashire River Hodder poem, and for those of you with trains to catch, I do assure you that I've only got about 3 more of these things to read. Come back, Freud, all is forgiven. Never cared much for righteous Wycliffe. His heavenly country meant the kingdom of heaven, chosen by and for the elect. A man need not conform to his own words, though he enacts or enables them. Orators marginalized by their own oratory, a recurrent theme, commonplace, the cartographics of dissent. All along I'm laboring to try out a numen that endures, exactly placed, some upper valley in the high fell country where Millstone grit juts against limestone, shippons built of random masonry, the home croft with its gapped wall and its well, and black nettles where the privy stood, ivy and other evergreens in profusion, most notably when it's winter. Yet Hardy's redoubtable friend asked, "Our people, where are they? Cranky old barns, but oh, our people, where are they?" And I could not answer, but left him there in silence. Curlew and kestrel trek the fell-sides. The hodder burls. A pheasant steps from its thorny hedge-bank beside us. The stooped pear tree honours us with its shade. Now just the last 2 sections, section 71 and 72. I tell you, it'll be a long time before I read these again. It's like weightlifting. But now and in memory, never so wholly awaited, the breadth of this autumnal land. In Golden Grove, the full trees trumpet their colours, earth casualties majestic. Unreal as in life, they build riches of cadence, not yet decadence, ruins festival. This much is allowed us, forever tangling with England in her quiet ways of betrayal. Natural mother, good but not enough. Again bring recollection forward, weeping with rage. Debit the lot to our checkered country, crediting even so a haunted music. Loyal incoherence not official, but now and then inspired. When circling Heathrow on hold, we are entertained by Windsor's scaled down perfect replicas, or a Sussex dormant, rippling with shadows of airflow, tilts, straightens under, and they switch off the flight chart. So much for my conclusion. A small remembrance. Nos fidélités sont des citadelles, pays. Our field is taken to be your places of refuge and defence. Never an off-season. Call for the voicer of fair omen. The voice persists in rising monotone. Talk obsession to ecstasy. Switch off, my word. Lie down in the space provided. Pollen and basalt. Dame Rainbow. Ancient lover of water, immortal for want of a better term. Self-remnant in each element of the same desire. Not as she once was, metaphysical and like wild. Weigh the importunate nature of being with a light husk. The grasshoppers, tall storyteller of the Hesperides, with hymns to divine aphasia, for it is she. Even so, Golden Grove might have been Silvertown, could be Golders Green, you can't rule on that. Finis was the last word to escape me, period. Stop trying to amuse with such gleeful sorrow. Here are the orchards of Zion, neither wisdom nor illusion of wisdom, not compensation, not recompense. The orchards of Zion, whatever harvests, we bring them. Thank you.